I would never claim that sexism is not a problem in the atheism community. There are people who believe that their sexism is supported by science somehow, and they are a small minority. I would like to say that the majority is getting blamed for the minority's act to a certain extent. Privilege. When people talk about privilege, it irritates me at times. I'm a nerd. Good portion of people who show up at atheist meetings are also nerds. We may not have had the greatest amount of social interaction. We spend a lot of times in books and learning. We may not have had that many opportunities to deal with the opposite sex or with whatever gender we're interested in. We have not had that much people-person time. Now, that might be overreaching. Maybe a lot of people will claim that they are not nerds. How dare you say that about the atheist community? Well, I will say this. There does seem to be a larger number of nerds in the atheist meetings than in other organizations. I don't think too many people would argue with that. And being in an atheist organization seems to indicate that you're looking for a place to belong, that you don't feel like you belong other places. It seems to speak for itself this way. And when people talk about having all of this, privilege, nerds don't always have a lot of privilege. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, play the world's smallest violin for the nerd. He hasn't had to deal with large amounts of sexism his whole life. I've had my own experiences, which I might go into later, some other time. But the main point here is, being a nerd, a lot of the advantages of being male are not given. They're just not there. I was sexually harassed in a way when I was in high school. I gained 70 pounds since then, lost hair, and grew a beard. Don't expect everybody to do that, but I haven't had trouble since. But people do have different experiences in their lives. The point is, as a nerd, people often treat you differently simply because you don't have the social interaction skills, or you look differently than they do, and you just don't seem to fit in. So it really grates my nerves when some people make statements along the lines of, well, it's really creepy when all you 30-year-olds are leering at us. Well, that sounds a lot like high school. That sounds a lot like saying, well, you guys are just creepy nerds. Man, I can't stand to be near you guys. And that's hurtful. That is hurtful. Maybe you are creeped out by us. That's entirely possible. But man, to empathize, to show any empathy at all, that you're not showing the empathy that you claim that we should be showing back. I'm not saying all women are doing this, but any time somebody claims that, it's these guys at these meetings that are all creepy, and man, if there might be a situation or there might be a person that we'd be interested, but it's not necessarily you. Oh wow! Suddenly I think, well, I'm back to being the nerd, and the people who are claiming to be in the right on this are being the jocks. It comes to be a gender division, nerd versus jocks type situation. And that's just silly. There's different ways in which we have privilege and different ways in which we have disadvantages towards one another. Please recognize that going to an atheist meeting, in general, maybe not if you're a rock star of the medium like Richard Dawkins, it tends to indicate that you're looking to belong somewhere. You're wanting to feel like you belong. And there are jerks. I'm not going to deny this. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. There are jerks, and I would like it if they quit. I'd love it if they quit. There's not much that I can honestly do about what every other person does. You're going to say, oh, that's sexist right there. Why don't you do more about blah, 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 blah. I don't know who's a psychopathic killer. I don't know. I can't do anything about that. Personally, I know that I'm a nerd, but I don't show up at these meetings very often because I have too much to do, honestly. So I'm not one of these guys that's generally leering at you. Plus, I'm married. But my point still stands. Nerdy people go to these meetings. They may not have many social skills. If they do something really wrong, that's a bad thing, and they should be dealt with appropriately. If they're socially awkward in any other way, that's something that's pretty well expected. Now, I'm probably going to hear from somebody saying, well, man, that's a problem in and of itself. Women aren't going to show up to these meetings if it's all occupied by male nerds. And there's going to be a lot of male nerds who would respond to that. Oh, well, it'll be just like the Dungeons & Dragons meet, or my Star Trek fan club, or chess meet, or physics club meet, and any of these other things. That's not a good that's not a good idea to have on this either. We want to have diversity in our meetings. We want to have all of these things. But I will state, if your main reason for leaving is because you're getting too much interest from nerds, I have a hard time feeling sorry about that. I really do. I understand not liking attention from men too much, but nerds are not a socially elevated group even today. Even with Big Bang Theory and the IT crowd, in which they're described as standard nerds, if you want men to simply sit back and not hit on females or anyone until they make the first move, this reminds me of the concept of courtly love. As the washing room wenches would say. Ironically, a group in which men are invited up to the stage to debase themselves for comedy. It doesn't make sense. It sounds like, and I'm just going to jump on the bandwagon with everyone else on this, a religious kind of thing, to claim that we have to go by courtly love standards when courting anyone. I recommend to all men to be more courteous to women. I think that all goes under the fill plate, don't be a dick notion, actually. P.Z. Myers should take note. But also, don't be condescending and claiming that nerds are the most privileged people in the world. It's a sad thing. Thank you much.